Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're keeping it all spooky, and welcome to the first video of 2025. It's been a while, been a little bit. Apologies about that. I've been a little bit unwell the last week or so, and it's made filming a little bit difficult, but we've managed to get this one out, and very much looking forward to you guys seeing this one. I had a lot of fun making it. But before we get into the video, I do just want to say a massive thank you to everybody for the love on the last couple of videos that we've made. It's honestly been incredible to see you guys enjoying the content, and we hit our goal of 300 subscribers for the start of 2025. So I just want to say a massive thank you to you guys again. You're absolute legends, and not only did we hit it, we smashed it. At the time we're recording, we're on I think we're on like 320 subscribers or something like that, and yeah, honestly, just blown away, guys. So thank you so much for your support, and let's make 2025 a good year. We're gonna smash it. So with that being said, nice quick intro for you guys. Let's get into it.
You're gonna love this. We got a surprise for you, Sydney. Yeah, you're gonna love this one. It's a Scream, baby.
Kicking off today's list, drumroll please, is Slumber Party Massacre. Now this is what I'd call the ultimate cheesy 80s popcorn slasher flick. It's got all the classic tropes we love about that era of horror. High school kids, a house party gone wrong, and the inevitable picking off of characters one by one by a relentless killer. But here's the twist. Our killer isn't your typical giant masked silent killer. Nope, he's just a normal looking guy, and trust me, when this guy speaks, it's somehow creepier than any silent menace ever could be.
Please don't do this.
I love you.
Another standout feature, the cast. It's female dominated, which wasn't exactly the norm for slasher movies at the time. Sure, there's some of the stereotypical nudity and the usual slasher cliches, but this movie flips the script. The women here don't just run and scream, they fight back, big time. They totally outshine the male characters and take the fight straight to Russ, the killer. Spoiler alert, they end up outsmarting him and ultimately ending his murderous rampage. For me, Slumber Party Massacre is an all-time great. It balances cheesy 80s charm with unexpected moments of empowerment, making it an absolute favourite on my list. Next up on our list is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. Now, I know most fans usually place Part 1 or Part 3 as their top picks from the franchise, but I'm throwing a curveball here. Part 2 is better than both of those, at least for me. Here's why. This movie gives us a much darker take on Freddy Krueger. The tone is serious, gritty, and genuinely unsettling. While Part 1 had its share of dark moments, Part 2 is the last time we see Freddy as a truly terrifying figure until A New Nightmare. As the franchise evolves, Freddy leans more into his comedic side, which hey, I get why people love that, but personally, I want my Freddy to be nightmare fuel, not a stand-up comic.
You are all my children now.
Another standout feature of Part 2 is our protagonist, Jesse. Yep, you heard that right, we've got a final boy this time. Jesse's journey is unlike anything else in the series. He goes through an intense psychological breakdown, even believing at one point that he is the one committing these murders. The big reveal? Freddy's actually possessing Jesse to manifest in the real world, adding a unique and unsettling layer to the story. From the cast to the story and its bold execution, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 really stands out in the franchise. It's one I keep coming back to, and every time it reminds me why it deserves way more credit than it gets. Moving on to the third movie on our list, we have A Bay of Blood. If you know me, you know I'm a massive fan of Italian horror and giallo films, so it's no surprise that our first Italian entry is making its debut here. What makes A Bay of Blood so unforgettable is its story. It's a true murder mystery, a whodunit, but with a twist. Instead of a single killer, we have multiple suspects all scheming, betraying, and yes, killing their way to claim a sprawling estate newly up for grabs. Why is it available? Well, a double murder will do that. And let's talk about the kills. This movie doesn't hold back, delivering some of the most creative and brutal deaths of its time, complete with stellar practical effects. Keep in mind this was 1971. One standout moment, and easily one of the most iconic kills in horror history, is the double spear kill through two people on a bed. Sound familiar? That's because this scene was famously echoed a decade later in a Friday the 13th Part 2. With its blend of blood-soaking thrills, a gripping story, and a cast that keeps you hooked from start to finish, A Bay of Blood is a must-watch for any slasher fan. It's the perfect mix of giallo elegance and slasher chaos, and it's one I'll never stop recommending. Coming in at number 4 on our list is the cult classic Sleepaway Camp. Easily one of the standout films from the 80s slasher boom, this movie takes a slightly different approach to the genre. Unlike your typical mass killer rampage, Sleepaway Camp opts for something more mysterious. Most of the kills are shown from a POV perspective or happen off-screen entirely, and there's a good reason for that. This movie isn't just about the body count. Sure, the kills are solid, but what Sleepaway Camp really delivers on is one of the most jaw-dropping twists in horror history. The story takes its time building up to a finale that's nothing short of unforgettable. And what a finale it is! Who would have guessed that our shy and reserved protagonist, Angela, would turn out to be the unhinged killer knocking off campers one by one? But wait, it gets even wilder. Just when you think the mystery is solved, the movie drops its second shocking twist. Angela isn't Angela at all. She's actually Peter, her supposedly dead brother who survived the boating accident that set everything in motion. It's a rollercoaster ride from start to finish and an absolute gem of 80s horror. With its clever storytelling, shocking reveals, and unforgettable final scene, Sleepaway Camp earns its spot as a true slasher classic. Next up, we dive into our second Italian entry on the list, Tenebrae. From the brilliant mind of Dario Argento, this 80s masterpiece is a fully fledged giallo classic that checks every box for fans of the genre. While we don't technically classify giallo films as slashers, let's be real, without the rich catalogue of giallo movies dating back to the 60s and beyond, the slasher genre as we know it wouldn't exist. For me, Tenebrae captures the essence of what a true giallo film should be. The kills, absolutely phenomenal, some of the most creative and visually stunning I've ever seen, with practical effects that hold up to this day. The cinematography is a work of art, showcasing exactly why Argento is hailed as the king of giallo. Every shot feels deliberate, stylish, and dripping with tension. As for the story, while it may not completely blow your mind, it's a slow burn that builds towards a breathtaking climax full of twists and turns you won't see coming. It's the kind of ending that stays with you long after the credits roll. Tenebrae is not just a film, it's an experience. With its jaw-dropping kills, stunning visuals, and gripping finale, it's a true gem of the 80s cinema and earns its rightful place on this list. We're at the halfway point of this list, and next up is Friday the 13th, Part 2. Now I know a lot of fans gravitate toward Part 4 or Part 6 as their favourites, and don't get me wrong, I love those too, but there's just something about Part 2 that makes it one of my top picks. Not just for this franchise, but for the entire slasher genre. Let's start with Jason himself. Sackhead Jason is, in my opinion, way scarier than Hockey Mask Jason. Sure, the hockey mask is iconic and undeniably helped define the franchise, but there's something about the burlap sack with the single eye hole that's just so much more unsettling. It feels raw, primal, and fits perfectly with the tone of Part 2. Another thing I love about this version of Jason is how human he feels. His movements and actions have a grounded, almost vulnerable quality that makes him even more terrifying. Later in the franchise, he becomes an unstoppable supernatural force, which is fun in its own way, but I've always preferred this more humanized portrayal. It reminds me a lot of Michael Myers in the original Halloween, before things got over the top. On top of that, Part 2 delivers one of the franchise's most polished and solid stories, serving as Jason's true introduction. And of course, we can't forget the kills. This movie features some of the most iconic deaths in the series, including the infamous double spear kill inspired by A Bay of Blood. When I think of the Friday the 13th franchise, I always come back to Part 2 first. It's a quintessential slasher and one I'd recommend to anyone diving into the genre. Next up, we have Scream. This is a movie I first watched as a kid and it's stuck with me ever since. It's one of those films I don't talk about enough but quietly adore. After the slasher boom of the 80s, the genre was on life support, desperately in need of a fresh icon to reignite its spark, and Scream delivered. The birth of Ghostface didn't just give us a killer to root for, let's be honest, we all do. It also revitalized the entire genre. What makes Scream stand out for me is its fresh and clever approach. It's a slasher that acknowledges the existence of horror movies in its own universe, making their characters self-aware of the situations they're in. This meta angle where the characters use their knowledge of horror tropes to navigate their own terrifying reality was groundbreaking at the time and has since become a staple in modern horror.
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
On top of that, Scream leans heavily into the murder mystery element, delivering a gripping whodunit story that keeps you guessing until the shocking twist at the end. And let's not forget its final act, arguably one of the most iconic in horror history. The acting across the board is stellar, but I have to give a special shout out to Matthew Lillard. His performance is unforgettable and adds so much to the film's charm and tension.
I'm feeling woozy here.
Altogether, Scream is a masterclass in slasher filmmaking. It's smart, terrifying, and endlessly entertaining, making it one of my all-time favourite watches, and a movie I'll always recommend to anyone exploring the genre. We're down to the final three on this list, and kicking things off is Halloween Kills. Ooh, controversial to have it in my all-time favourites? Nah. Halloween Kills isn't just one of my favourite slashers, it's one of my favourite horror movies, period. The Halloween franchise holds a special place in my heart. I'm deeply invested in its lore, its atmosphere, and everything that makes these movies what they are. And Halloween Kills delivers on all fronts. Sure, some of the acting is a bit rough around the edges, but this movie is all about pure feeling and emotion, and it hits you with everything right from the start. Let's talk about that opening flashback sequence. Winding the clock back to 1978 to show you what happened in this timeline, absolute chills. It's easily one of the best openings in horror, seamlessly blending nostalgia with a fresh perspective. And then there's Michael Myers. His portrayal in this movie is exactly what I want from The Shape. An unstoppable, rampaging force of nature. He's brutal, relentless, and terrifying, and the movie doesn't hold back when it comes to delivering the kills, the blood, the gore, the sheer creativity of the carnage. It's a slasher fan's dream. The score too is phenomenal. It grabs you, immerses you, and screams, or should I say, slashes, Halloween from start to finish. I know I might be in the minority hyping this movie up, but for me it gives me everything I want from a Halloween film, and then some. Whether it's the nostalgia, the brutality, or the incredible atmosphere, Halloween Kills is a movie I'll defend and recommend any day. Second to last on this list, and sticking with Halloween, we have the classic that started it all, Halloween 1978. What more can be said about this masterpiece that hasn't already been said? I first watched this movie when I was around 6 years old, and it completely changed my life. It was my introduction to horror and remains my favourite horror movie of all time. John Carpenter and his team struck gold with this film, crafting a timeless classic that essentially ignited the 80s slasher boom. Without Halloween, we likely wouldn't have gotten genre-defining franchises like Friday the 13th. Even decades later, Halloween still holds up as a masterclass in horror. The atmosphere is thick with tension, the story is simple yet so effective, and the music. Oh, the music. Carpenter's iconic score is nothing short of perfection and has become synonymous with the genre itself. This movie is the blueprint for a slasher done right. Its storytelling is straightforward but gripping, with perfectly timed shocks and suspense that takes you on a journey you never fully recover from. It's a film that understands that less is more, and its restraint only makes it more terrifying. Sure, the franchise may have lost some of its magic as it expanded, but Halloween stands tall as a film that transcends time. For me, it's the ultimate horror experience and will always be the best of the best. Well, what a journey it's been. We've reached the final movie on our list, and to wrap things up, we have Terrifier 3. Now, I get it. It's easy to get caught up in the hype of a fresh release, but time has passed and I can confidently say Terrifier 3 is a modern slasher classic that has reignited the genre for a whole new audience, while also grabbing the attention of long-time slasher fans like myself. The Terrifier series has been making waves for years now, thanks to its brutal gore and the unforgettable twisted killer, Art the Clown. But Terrifier 3, it launches this franchise into a whole new stratosphere. A record-breaking opening weekend showed us all that the slasher genre is alive and well, and Art the Clown is leading the charge. I've been a fan of Terrifier 1 and 2 for many reasons, but those films still had that indie feel to them. Even though they weren't made by a major studio, they built a strong following, and that success helped propel Terrifier 3 into something that feels like a big budget production. The cast is fantastic, and the kills? They push the boundaries even further, which honestly, I didn't think was possible. I've already gone back to watch Terrifier 3 a couple times, and it's just as enjoyable as the first time I saw it. For that reason alone, it absolutely earns its spot on this list as one of my all-time favourites. Thanks for watching, horror fans. I hope you enjoyed my list of top 10 favourite slasher movies. Did your favourites make the cut? Let me know in the comments which slasher films you love, or if there's ones I should have included. I'd love to hear your picks. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your fellow horror enthusiasts, and subscribe to Horror Stories. Stay tuned for more horror reviews, rankings, and deep dives in the scariest corners of cinema. Until next time, keep the lights low and enjoy the screams. See you in the next one.